Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that might sound a bit philosophical, but believe me, it's right at the heart of where AI is going. We're exploring how AI can actually understand the world and maybe, surprisingly, how this connects back to the ideas of Martin Heidegger. Yes, the philosopher. We're drawing on work by Gerardo, Iovane, and Giovanni, and also getting insights from people like Musknug, Waddell, Giunchiglio and Bouquet, Prabhakaran, and Van Noord. Quite a lineup. Our goal: to really unpack why getting context right is, well, everything for AI. It's about moving past simple data crunching towards intelligence that's adaptable, smart, and importantly, trustworthy. You probably think AI is already incredibly smart, writing code, making art, driving cars.
And it is, in certain ways.
Right. But here's the thing. What if a lot of that intelligence is missing something fundamental, something we get without thinking? That thing is context.
That's really the crux of it. We assume access to data equals understanding. But Heidegger, he had a very different take. He argued, you can't truly grasp something in isolation. It only reveals its meaning when you see it immersed in its environment, its situation.
Like trying to understand a word without the rest of the sentence.
Exactly. Or,
Yeah.
like that brushstroke example you mentioned earlier, meaningless without the whole painting. Heidegger really pushed back against understanding things by pulling them out of their world.
So a lot of current AI, despite all the data, is still kind of looking at isolated pieces, working with context-free information.
That's a good way to put it. We see this in what one researcher called the data harvesting bonanza.
Sounds impressive, but maybe not in a good way.
Well, it means collecting tons and tons of data, but it's often decontextualized, stripped of its original setting and purpose. And data like that, it doesn't really allow for genuine learning or adaptation. Think about a smart home. It works great when everything's predictable.
Yeah, learns my routine pretty well.
But what happens when life gets messy? Guests arrive, the power flickers, you're just feeling unwell. These systems often falter because the environment changed unexpectedly.
Right. They don't understand the why.
Precisely. Their reliability, even safety, gets questioned because they lack that deeper situational awareness. There's also this context gap appearing in business AI.
A gap? How so?
Well, many applications focus on immediate tasks, make a decision, and then for care. They discard the signals, the surrounding information
Yeah.
that led to that decision. They forget the original context.
Wait, they lose the context actively.
Often, yes. It seems efficient in the short term, but it's problematic. Take healthcare decision support.
Okay.
The tool might log the final diagnosis, right? But it often misses the subtle cues, the environmental factors, the full patient picture that a doctor considered. The rationale gets lost.
Which kills transparency and trust, I imagine. You can't explain the why if the why wasn't even cut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How can you trust or explain a recommendation if the system itself has forgotten the reasons behind it?
That's a critical problem, especially somewhere like medicine. So, okay, how do we fix this? How do we bridge that context gap? Give AI a memory, essentially.
Well, the promising direction is something called contextual memory intelligence.
Okay.
The core idea is pretty straightforward, really. AI needs to systematically collect and store environmental signals as context data. This isn't just metadata like a simple timestamp or a location tag. It's much richer.
So, more than just data about data.
Yes, much more. It's viewing context as a constellation of signals that actively inform decisions. Think about looking at stars. Individual points don't mean much, but the pattern, the constellation, tells a story. Wendell actually broke these signals down into 4 helpful types.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so there's the type of signal could be location, time, maybe even detected emotion. Then the scope, how it relates to the action, like left ankle for an injury sensor. Then the source. Where did it come from? A pressure sensor, a patient interview, a camera. And finally, the state, the actual value at that moment, like 3,000 pounds pressure or patient reports severe pain.
Wow, okay. That's a lot more detail than I was picturing. A whole web of information, really.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because without that richness, AI suggestions can quickly become nonsensical. Imagine a health app recommending intense exercise when the context it missed was that the user just reported a serious injury.
Right. Potentially dangerous misalignment.
Hugely. And it's not just about better function. Regulations, things like GDPR or HIPAA, They're increasingly pushing for systems to track this kind of context and rationale anyway. It's becoming a practical necessity.
Makes sense. You need the audit trail, the explanation. So beyond collecting all these signals, are there principles for how AI should reason with this context?
Yes, absolutely. Two key principles discussed back in the 90s, actually, by Gentili and Bouquet, are locality and compatibility.
Locality and compatibility. Okay.
Locality is basically about restricting the AI's focus to the facts that are directly relevant right now. Like that chess AI example. It only needs to worry about the current board, not every game ever played.
So focus on the immediate situation, keeps things manageable.
Exactly. It enables that sort of locally situated decision-making, crucial for real-time stuff, like robots in a factory needing to react quickly to their immediate surroundings, not worry about the robot across the building.
Got it. And compatibility.
Compatibility is about the AI's ability to sort of carry context over from one situation to another, to learn and apply knowledge, maintaining coherence.
So learning from experience, adapting.
Precisely. It lets agents adapt and use a shared understanding. This ties right back to Heidegger's point about meaning and not cutting systems off from their world. The criticism, though, is that much current AI relies on pragmatic adaptations, meaning it uses very specific pre-programmed bits of knowledge for certain domains, rather than truly grasping the underlying cognitive context. It's like knowing the answer to one math problem, but not the formula, limits true reasoning.
Right. So it feels like we're bumping up against a more traditional, maybe reductionist view of intelligence.
Yeah.
Breaking it down versus something else.
That's a great way to frame it. There's a growing realization, highlighted by researchers like Prabhakanan, that real intelligence, especially the time we want an AI, emerges from interaction, from engaging deeply with the social and ecological environment.
So not just processing isolated data points.
No, it's a direct contrast to reductionist AI, which tries to define intelligence as just a set of simple, separate functions, reasoning here, learning there. This reductionist view, you could almost say it treats everything as isolated objects to be analyzed, which Heidegger called present at hand. It misses the way we use tools fluidly within a task, what he called ready to hand. When AI only sees data points, it loses that embedded context.
So AI needs to be more embodied, more engaged with the world it's in.
Exactly. We're starting to see this with ecological intelligence. Think of drones or robots that don't just follow instructions, but actively learn and adapt to wind conditions, obstacles, terrain.
Learning on the fly based on the environment.
Yes, but the design challenges are, well, significant.
Yeah.
Take a caregiver robot. It's not enough for it to navigate the room.
Right.
It has to operate within the patient's context. Their physical state that day, their mood, their changing needs and preferences, that's incredibly complex and dynamic.
A huge leap.
It is. But getting this right, this shift toward embodied ecological intelligence is key for generalization, for prediction, for adaptation. It unlocks potential in healthcare, collaborative robotics, education, so many areas.
Okay, so context embodiment, but you mentioned another piece earlier, time. How meaning changes over time. That sounds tricky for AI.
Oh, it's definitely tricky. Heidegger saw temporality as fundamental to how we understand anything. Meaning isn't fixed. It unfolds and evolves through time. And this is something current models, especially language models, often just miss.
How so?
Well, think about analyzing culture through text. Standard NLP methods might track how often a word is used.
Okay.
But high frequency doesn't always mean widespread acceptance or importance. And crucially, these methods usually fail to track how the meaning or the connotations of words shift over the years. Semantic change.
So the AI sees the same word from 1950 and 2020 and treats its meaning as identical, even if society's understanding has completely changed.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That can lead to really flawed analysis, misunderstanding historical context or cultural shifts.
Yeah.
The big challenge is building architectures that can actually handle this fluidity.
Models with memory, not just for facts, but for how meanings themselves evolve.
Exactly. A memory for cultural and semantic shifts. Without that, grasping the full, nuanced, ever-changing human context is just not possible.
Wow. Okay. So wrapping this up, we've really gone on a journey from Heidegger's ideas about situation to AI's current struggles with context, the promise of contextual memory, embodiment, and this huge challenge of time and meaning.
It really shows we're moving beyond that narrow sort of reductionist view of AI.
Yeah.
Embracing context, time, the environment, it leads towards a deeper understanding of interpretation, of meaning itself, Maybe towards that idea of Sofimatic systems that grasp nuance like humans do?
It's about making AI more aligned with how the world actually works and how we work within it, more adaptable, more trustworthy.
Absolutely.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to chew on. As AI gets better at this understanding context, tracking shifting meanings, adapting to the world, how does that change things? Not just our tech interactions, but maybe our own ideas about what intelligence is, what it means to know something, and, well, our own place in a world that's always evolving.